G'day, Poggers, and welcome to another episode of the PogState. That's right, we were not cancelled. We are back for the summer season, and there is a lot to talk about. I'm still Atlas, joined by Chronicler Wolf and Valdez, as we bring you everything there is to know about the LCK. But first, what have you guys been up to? It's been a while. Chronicler, what you been doing since you got back from MSI?
Since I got back from MSI, celebrating, first of all. I'm very happy that we won.
Hell yeah.
I was very emotionally invested, as per usual, and we did it.
What did you do to celebrate?
Cook a lot of food, mostly.
Did you eat a lot of oatmeal?
I do, yeah. Yeah, I actually been perfecting my
That wasn't an
apple.
idea, that was an I do. He's actually currently eating oatmeal, right?
As we speak. I've been perfecting my apple raisin oatmeal. It's been going very well. Apple raisin cinnamon is kind of my jam. Outside of that, yeah, not a whole lot. Been playing New Paper Mario. It's been very fun.
Visual novels.
Visual novels, yeah, as per usual. Although I haven't finished that one yet because it's a really, really long one. I finished Ollie Ollie World, the DLC. Ollie Ollie World, really good 2D skating game. I would highly recommend. And I got used to drinking coffee again instead of tea because obviously in China the coffee is kind of whatever, but the tea is really good. Mm-hmm. And then coming back in Korea, it's kind of the flip side. Korean coffee is really nice. There's a lot of great cafes here. So been doing that. And that's really it. You know, video games, getting ready for LCK, watching people play League of Legends because the new meta is going to be very different, right? Casante's gone. Right? He's not.
But the jungle champions do magic damage now.
That is actually really fun. I'm very excited about that. Canyon on not tanks.
Mm-hmm. I have seen a lot of Nidalee being played elsewhere, and that's kind of fun. Wolf, what have you been up to?
I went to Vietnam, which was really fun. And
I know, because you sent a picture of yourself at a bar that my wife and I went to that we absolutely loved, which is like down this tiny little corner, this alleyway, and it's then down a whole bunch of stairs, and then it's through a hole in the wall. And you just sent me a picture. I'm like, wait, hang on a second. And it's also in Dalat, where not a lot of people go to holiday.
Yeah. Dalat
kind of blew my brain apart.
It was really fun. I went to Dalat. I drove a scooter around, went through the mountains.
Classic.
And got like pho in the middle of nowhere where there were like no people except me and like one woman asleep in the back of a small room. And I pull my bike up. She's like, pho? And I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm here for. Like, I played Kingdom Hearts for the first time. Beat the first Kingdom Hearts game because people probably know this about me, but I am obsessed with like playing every game that's famous basically across time, which is why I always play old games and not new games. But I enjoyed it. That's kind of it. Like Vietnam was really fun, and I did that.
There is one thing you left out. I also went to Vietnam, actually. Me and Wolf went to Vietnam at the
same time.
We took a plane on the same day. This was not pre-organized. We just happened to go on the same day.
When did you figure it out?
Like 4 days before or something? Like 5 days before? We're just like, oh, when are you going to Vietnam? Oh, on the 20th. Oh, that's when I'm going. That's
it was
weird.
A fun coincidence until we both found out that we didn't apply for our visas fast enough. And then we were really talking to each other about our trip to Vietnam.
Yeah, I had to spend a lot of money for that as well. The trip itself was really fun. And then I came back and I've just been playing that secret game alongside of kind of an old game that my cousin plays, Elite Dangerous. I don't know if you guys have heard about that game. It's like a space game. It's like a sandbox MMO. It's pretty fun.
We had those.
I'm playing that as well.
3 days we played a lot of Overwatch. That was fun.
We did do that as well. Yeah.
Like
you guys played Overwatch?
Yeah, for like 3 days.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. I saw you guys on Battle.net because I've been no-lifing Diablo 4 since I got back. I've woken up, sat at my PC, played Diablo 4, and then gone to sleep. That's been what I've done.
That's been your.
I mean, Overwatch is still alive. It's still a real game. I still cast it. Like you guys could text me. Like,
yeah, we honestly should have.
I'm actually kind of disappointed. I thought that Wolf must still be in Vietnam.
You were just roasting me as well. I'm like, no, it's fun.
Speaking of Vietnam,
great 3 days.
I should mention also I cast Gen G playing against some Vietnamese influencers and players who played through this kind of open tournament. and it was really funny to watch Genji extremely try hard against players who were like legit diamond level. But that was really fun as well. And the Vietnamese fans, I wasn't on site, but the Vietnamese fans, I could see them obviously through the camera, and some of the social media posts were like so excited for Genji to come to Vietnam, and they like greeted them at the airport. There were like hundreds of people waiting for them at the airport. That was super cool.
Didn't DK do the same thing?
Lucid and Showmaker went. I think Deft and Barrel went as well. There were a bunch of teams all sending players over, and everyone was greeted with...
I think Lehen's like got like the biggest like greeting from everybody, but Showmaker as well was like so many fans for him.
So
it was
wholesome.
Awesome.
Yeah,
it's really cool because I think we've known that the Vietnamese fan base is absolutely gigantic, but to have it actually like shown to you, I think is actually really important, and it's really, really cool.
Yeah.
But so that's the end of I bought a tree. I bought a tree.
You bought a tree.
Oh yeah, I saw you planting a tree in a pot.
Yeah.
Where did you put the tree?
The tree's next to the window.
How small is
Are you
going
to plant it outside eventually, or
no? It's an inside tree.
He's going to become like the greatest bonsai like tree grower of all time. He's going to have it like grow out of his window, and like from miles away people will see this like tree that comes out of a house like somehow. And he cuts it and trims it and trims it so perfectly that it just continues to grow upwards from his house.
Yeah. No, I'm actually just going to keep growing it inside the house, so it just starts growing around. It's called a gum tree, but it's not a eucalyptus. So it looks like it's got eucalyptus leaves, but it doesn't.
How likely would a koala be to eat it?
Well, it'd probably give it a shot and then be like, and then make those really terrifying noises.
I forgot, does Achilles live above you or below you?
He lives in another building now. He used to live below me.
Because otherwise you could do a thing where, the tree grows to him and then you...
Oh,
yeah, I know.
like a cannon string, but it's a tree.
Yeah.
I don't think that'd work, but I do like the idea.
What do the cats think about the tree?
Changi hasn't tried to eat it yet. It's definitely really good. He normally eats any plant that enters the house. And so, yeah, definitely
Has
very good.
Bibian tried to climb it yet?
No, Bibian has, gone to sleep. He got sick. So my cat...
Is he okay?
Yeah, so he's fine now, but he had like a hoarse meow. And he yells a lot whenever he's hungry. And so every night at midnight, which is when he normally gets his dinner, he just comes out and he's like, and it's like the scariest sound. Normally he's got this really high-pitched, cute meow. Yeah. And then it's like he's got like a little bit of a cold and he's like, and we're like, oh no.
When you said he had a horse meow, my first thought was he was coming around the house going like,
oh my god!
The intro segment that says 5 minutes did really end up being 20 minutes.
It really did. All right, but that means that we can, after I stop crying because of the neigh that my cat apparently did, we can have a bit of a chat about MSI because I want to hear from you guys about what you thought about MSI and whether your expectations were met and things like that. What was your takeaways?
Well, Snackerman tier ended up being like
pretty
legit.
Dude, it was real, yeah.
I actually thought I was pretty happy with MSI overall. Like the format, we knew it was going to be good. It was really good. Like I really enjoyed watching it. The pacing also didn't feel like it was too slow. Like it felt very good to watch like a big game every night. It felt like, and even the games didn't have Korean teams. I would watch them and enjoyed it. I thought that the international performance for like America and Europe was actually better than I expected. Like I know it wasn't like our expectations were pretty low, but I thought that they played pretty well. And Genji did not disappoint us, and I felt like everyone was like, oh, Genji is going to disappoint us because they always disappoint at internationals after they smash LCK, win again, and then go to international and then kind of choke. That didn't happen. So it felt like a really nice evolution of the storyline of Genji winning everything, and no one was saying Golden Road. Now everyone's saying like, oh, Golden Road, and it was really fun to watch Chovy perform at an international event.
Also to watch Canyon perform at an MSI, which was really cool because like I think
the Dom 1 days.
Yeah, so much of the focus was on Chovy and how dominant he was, but that was the tournament that Canyon never really managed to show up to. So pretty impressive.
Yeah,
that
he
was
had the
able to do so.
one. Because one was cancelled, and then the other, I guess they wouldn't have gone in 2020 either way because they didn't win spring.
Yeah.
And then in 2021, there was the Rumble Morgana incident.
Yeah, that's the one that I was really thinking about, and I was just not really
I remember
it.
that one.
But then he brings out the Karthus there anyway, and so you're like, oh, it's a bit of a throwback.
I really
love it.
lost my mind when that Karthus was locked in game 1. I was very, very happy about that.
Didn't Showmaker also play Xerath at that tournament? I
At
wanna
that
say?
tournament, he might have.
Yeah.
Showmaker would do something.
Let's lock in Xerath.
How about you,
Doesn't
Brendo?
seem like a Showmaker champ though.
No.
It's kind of weird. I mean, it was an enjoyable tournament to watch. I watched a lot of it pretty much every night, but it was kind of interesting to see Gen G slowly ramping up, and a lot of discussion talking about like, no, BLG is going to win it this time, and well, this time, is Gen G going to get it? But at the end of the day, I think that Chovy and them, they kind of just got over their whatever mental block they had, and they just looked really fantastic. And BLG did challenge them a couple of times, but it did feel like even in their first matchup that like Gen G was the better team and they were going to finally get it. I feel like from that moment, I kind of had that belief that Gen G was going to win. So that was really nice to see. I'm glad that, Chovy's really, he's kind of like very obviously the best player in the world right now. And it's kind of cool to watch this new story arc building, because the last big player we had that was doing this, I guess, was Faker, and then there was like kind of Showmaker, but now Chovy, immediately came at the same time as Showmaker, and now he's really the big guy on campus for the LCK. So I am really excited to see how much he can get done, him and the team, because they're very obviously the strongest team in the world right now, and Chovy's the best player in the world. So I'm a Golden Road believer. I think they're gonna do it. I think it's going to
Unless
happen.
KT makes it to Worlds.
That's not going to happen.
Because we know.
It's still
that
the
they're-
only
yeah.
team
The only
entire
team
year.
that's ever beaten them in a best-of series.
The beryllium levels are too high in this room right now.
and with MSI, we also lock in our 4th seed. That's guaranteed now. We're getting a 4th seed, so...
And that's a discussion that we want to have after this as well, because
Who's it
4th
gonna
seed
be?
is... if we had 3 seeds, very easy. It's like, oh, T1, Genji, Hanwha, hell yeah, okay, off to the races.
We're
And
always
now,
sleeping on the
like,
4th seed.
Yeah.
Even when
really-
DRX won afterwards, I was like, I don't know. Like, if we could go back, it probably would be safer to just not send DRX to Worlds.
I mean, I remember talking about it during that Worlds, and I was like, this is probably our 6th or 7th seed, and I stand by that 100%, even though they won. Like, oh god, I'm not entirely sure.
what were your thoughts on MSI, Max? What do you think? How do you feel?
So I actually thought that, like Wolf was saying, I was impressed by the Western performances, probably more so on the European side, or at least the G2 side, right? I think that G2 looked extraordinarily good. And actually was kind of sad with the way that they left the tournament as well, because I felt like there was more that they could offer. And there were a lot of like mixed predictions throughout the whole event. I think that made for a really, really cool tournament. Because I don't think the thing that was expected to happen happened nearly as often as any other tournament that we've watched over the last 3-4 years. So I think that like that was probably my favorite part, was the fact that we had so many people that were completely split on what they expected to happen. But I did also feel like that upped expectation and lowered the like impressiveness in a lot of people's minds of what, G2 was capable of doing and stuff like that. Because I still think that there is a large gap between the East and the West. And the fact that G2 looked like that gap had closed as much as they did, I think was more impressive than we kind of got at the end, because I think the expectation went here when reality was here, when expectation should have been a little bit lower, and then we could have celebrated, right? That's sort of where I was sitting, but maybe it's just on the eastern side of things. That's how it sort of goes. But
G2's just their own team now. Like, they are really a one-team region.
it's like
from
what we
the
were
LEC.
talking about in our episode. It's like you've got the G2 tier where they're nebulously either
Yeah.
close to here or close to
Yeah.
here, and we just don't know.
by themselves. We were right, but I think they also outdid our expectations.
Absolutely,
as
yeah.
well. So
because they were better than top
kinda
in
cool
the
to
end.
see.
I think they were in amongst sort of those top
it's
two
just
tiers.
it's weird because they are kind of that enigma where you never really know, like, are they going to be closer to the eastern side? Are they going to be closer to the western side? But this time they were definitely much closer to the eastern side and definitely a contender at the end of the day. But still a little bit weird that no other team can get at all close. Like nobody else from the LEC, nobody else from the LCS can get close to G2. They're just like on an island by themselves, the one contender right now.
And I'm thinking like for one of the first times, if you put G2 into the LCK or the LPL, they will be a playoffs team.
Yeah, I think so.
Like 100%.
I think if they don't get burnt out, because obviously it's a very different format and it's like very much a lot more games, like they might, like that's the one thing I always think and mention when people talk about bringing like another region's team into our region, especially a North American or European team, like they might get burnt out if they did play in the LCK just because they're adjusting to like a new culture, food, and all that stuff, and then they're playing like way more games. There's way more prep time. And I know that the culture of North American and European teams has changed a lot over the last 10 years. Then, you know, like what it was like in 2013, 2014 was kind of like almost like a frat house, like team house thing where everyone's just hanging out. Nobody's really screaming or practicing that much.
No. If we're going to bring a North American team, we just bring TL though. And it's only APA that needs to change any sort of lifestyle.
But I think the when you go to a Korean team house and you go see like because now all the team houses are so grandiose, like compared to what they were at the beginning of League of Legends, or like what Brood War team houses were like, where people are sleeping on the floor. You see like the whiteboard, like every team house has a big whiteboard and the big TV where they VOD review and stuff. And you see like if you visit a house, you always see like the scrim schedule like on the board, and you're like, they are playing a lot of games every day. And then there's like a 4-hour solo queue block as well. And I think like adjusting to that level of practice, I always wonder like if a European team could do that, or if they could just be like, no, we're going to do our style where we practice a little bit less, so we think about the game more, and we come up with really cool strategies, which is like the opposite of LCK. Instead of iterating on what's good, actually do their own thing. Maybe they could, you know, go really far in the LCK for one season, but like long term, would that work out? I always wonder.
I honestly think, especially after seeing them, that the main issue they have is just that you're naturally always going to hit your peak in the LEC. If they never leave, they're never going to be able to really...
Yeah.
Because I think
there's no one to push them to the next level.
So yeah, and what we saw, and I was, similarly to you guys, I was extremely impressed with G2. My expectation was that they would only be able to match when they had specific picks, which they obviously did, like particularly in the first T1 series, right, where the Poppy, the Zac ended up being really, really big. They should have won Game 5 as well. Like, realistically, they should have beaten... But that to me, that they should have beaten them in Game 5. They should have beaten them in Game 3 of the 3-0 as well, where they were in a position. Those situations, no LEC team is going to punish you. And as long as they don't leave the LEC, I think those situations are going to keep arising. So they're just genuinely hamstrung. And that's why I think you see that as you get deeper into the tournament, the rest of the teams also start leveling up more and more, right? So it makes it really, really hard, because in the second series in particular, they banned away the problem picks, and then all of a sudden it became a much more even playing field. And then even in the game where they did get a really big lead, it really, like, I wanted them to win that game. Like the Ivern double 80 carry comp where Caps got caught in mid lane, they should have won. They were in a supreme position to win that game. And I like it when teams, when they outsmart a very predictable opponent, which is also what they did really well against TES, right?
Yeah.
Them not winning that was just, as a fan of League of Legends, just unfortunate. And I hope that they can reach that level. But I think as long as you stay in the LEC, they're so far ahead that no team is going to teach them the discipline to not lose in those moments. Whereas LCK teams, even some of the worst teams, it's because they play against Gen.G, against T1, that I feel like your average level of discipline and how you play a lot of mid-game situations just needs to be so much higher.
Yeah, and that's why we need to triple trade the bottom 3 teams of every league.
It's so interesting.
And that way you just like have, so you trade, you trade one LCK team with an NA team, one LCK team with an LEC team, one LCK team with an LPL team.
Don't want to live in another region. It's relegation. Like, so you want to move to another region back on the bottom 3.
Actually kicked out.
To move
so obviously we're just sending Brion so they can spread the joy of Bro League to the rest of the world.
It's just the league, like, the team is just going to go and meet their general over in NA.
The one thing that I did want to talk about for specifically LCK teams, I think there was also, I still feel very justified in our initial assessment of supports, but Lahans My man.
Dude.
My man.
Blitzcrank
That
was
the crank.
unreal.
The
It wasn't even
Crank.
like if it was just his crank game, it'd be fine. But that whole series,
No, he was violently ill
He
throughout
was
most of the
yeah.
tournament.
He was in hospital like half the tournament.
It was actually unreal. Incredible amounts of respect. That's probably the best series that I think he's ever played.
Yep.
Like genuinely, Pays got 28 kills and no one talked about him. And Pays also had a great redemption moment, right? Like I think he really kind of reached his last year's level where he is just really dependable and really, really solid, able to stand up to Alcanon, but Lehens, as he should, I think, got Finals MVP. And then for T1, I think for T1, this tournament was unfortunately marred by Faker really not performing. And now that there's been more information, he talked a little bit more about his injury, about the fact that his wrist is playing up again. Makes a lot of sense because this guy had an insane domestic split and he wasn't good at MSI. Like even Faker at his worst would not get solo killed in lane. He would seed pressure, he would be able to play around it. And that is one thing that I think gives me a lot of hope for T1 going forward if they can give him time off, if they can fix that. Because the fact that they got third and almost beat BLG playing the way that they did is like that probably shouldn't be the case.
Good sign for a region, though.
Oh yeah,
LCK
really
did
is.
take some big leaps from last year into this year. Feels like everybody going into MSI, not everybody, but some people were saying, "Oh, it's China's tournament. They're going to win it again." BLG is just too strong. They're the best, And I think it's fair going into it to say those kind of things, but it does at the end of the day, seeing the results, seeing how the way the game's played out, like feels pretty good for the LCK, I'd say.
Isn't it sad though? Because now we have to wait until Chovy retires before we get a new MSI champion.
Because he's just going to keep on winning because he doesn't lose.
He's
Maybe
downloaded
he's
this
just
one
gonna
now.
keep winning. He is just that good. The
'Cause if
dynasty of Chovy.
Because if he does actually complete the Golden Road, how long is the Golden Road? And what happens when you just keep winning after that first Golden Road? Because you don't stop paving, right? Do you get new bricks?
The
Is
Platinum
it the Platinum Road?
The Diamond Road?
They need a new name, right? Like if he wins
Isn't there the
back-to-back
Emerald
2
Road
years.
in there somewhere?
We're definitely not getting overexcited, guys.
Yeah.
Well, he's going to have a monopoly on trophies, and he's going to keep passing go and collecting 4 trophies every time.
Exactly. And it's a bit of a meme, but he's won 4 LCKs in a row. Like this
Back to back to back.
And what are we going to do with the what are we doing this summer when we're talking about the back to back to back to back to back to back to back? Is that actually what we're doing?
Every single time.
We're going to have to say it every time
Pentatroph?
now.
Can we call it the Pentatroph? I'm kind
I'm
of
really
down
excited
with
for
Just
like
have
in
to-
2 years, Caster John being like, the 12th feet! Like,
We're just going to have to name it the Chovy eventually, right?
Yeah, we'll
Like,
just
because
call
he's
it the
going to
Chovy.
outdo everybody, and then it's just like it becomes the Chovy, right?
What I love though is
that's a
that
good call, yeah.
in the finals, he wasn't actually in the upper bracket finals. He was the main character because he just completely gapped Knight in like as many ways as you would like. But in the finals, it wasn't It wasn't about him, and I think that's one of the first times where I think 2023 Chovy had a really bad MSI. I think he just didn't play well. But obviously, last Worlds, I think there were very clear problem areas toward the top half of the map.
There was a certain flash that comes to mind.
Yeah, which I do really think that Keen and Canyon being there, it's night and day. He doesn't have to hard carry every single series, and I think that you can slowly start to see him kind of relax, where he doesn't go into I need every single resource on the map and does inting, getting killed on the side lane because he's trying to like.
We talked about
from
that
his,
in a previous
2020,
episode,
2021
right? We were like,
game.
Chovy has that kind of padding behind him because he doesn't need to be the carry every time. It can be Keen one game, it can be Canyon another game, sometimes Pace. Now we know sometimes it's Lehens, right? Like,
Doran
it's a
has
really
been
powerful
lifted from
team.
his shoulders.
Hey, Peanut deserves some flack as well.
Yeah.
Okay, International Peanut was.
And it does make
Yeah.
sense, Doran's items aren't meant for the late game, so that's just not how it's supposed to go.
One thing that's really cool about Genji that I think about a lot, especially recently compared to T1, is like T1 finally won Worlds, right? They got their 4th trophy, or 4th star rather. They have a lot of trophies. but that roster stayed together, and they've been together for a really long time. So they have like all this pre-existing synergy. We always talk about, it looks like somebody's inting in a side, but they all rotate really quickly, and it looks like, oh, we can catch Faker, but actually you force in this awkward team fight, and T1 get 3 kills and get a Baron, that kind of thing. I feel like Gen.G hasn't. They're really good at communication, especially at MSI. Their coordination was really good, but like this roster hasn't been together for 2 years yet. What if this roster is together and stays the same for 2 years, 3 years? Like, they're not even at their peak. Like, they're not even close to their peak, I feel like. And that's such an exciting prospect to think about like how good this team can become even more than they already are.
You know it's good when Wolf is feeling optimistic.
Right.
That's when the team really hits.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. For me, the main thing is, like, interviews with, like, Chovy and Canyon especially about that mid-jungle synergy and the fact that their brains just work the same way terrifies me. Because, like, Chovy was already amazing with Peanut. He was amazing with Tarzan at the beginning. Like, Showmaker and Canyon were together forever, right?
How about your boy Johan?
Don't count
He was amazing
Don't
with
count out
Johan.
Arthur.
Yeah.
I was going to say Arthur.
Yeah, and what about Willa? You know,
Yeah,
our boy
okay,
Willa.
but- okay, but Willer.
But Willie was legitimately like Willie. Willie
what
was
about
good.
There's been a few of them, but Johan was actually like his best friend. So, they probably had some synergy. But I don't think that necessarily compares to, you know, Tarzan and Peanut, which were there for longer. They were there for longer, right? That's my point. But the fact that they like think about the game the same way, that their style was easy to mesh together when, you know, like, talk to Kobe about Canyon, you know, like, this guy's the GOAT of the jungle.
Loves Canyon.
He does love Canyon a lot, even though he has, you know, slumped over the last couple of years and hasn't reached that massive form that he had when he was winning Worlds and
Still
dominating
moments.
2021.
Yeah.
Still had those moments that reminded us, oh, hey, this guy is ridiculous. Like, you know that game that doesn't exist, the Trundle game, where like, it was one of the best jungle performances of all time, and then the game got nullified. Oh, God.
I forgot about that game.
Yeah,
I
it was very
erased
sad.
it
Yeah.
from my collective memories.
That makes sense because it was erased from record.
It never
so
happened. Yeah.
It didn't happen.
Just like Khan's Yasuo top game in the finals. Never happened.
It's gone.
It's not real.
Why would you bring that up, Wolf?
It's Zeus's fault. But yeah, I just think that like them being a mid-jungle duo is so scary for exactly what you're saying. Like, because it only gets better. So like, do we have like another, you know, Faker Bengi, Maple Casa type situation where it's like this dynasty lasts for a really long time?
Like the Showmaker Canyon one.
Well, yeah.
I'm glad that Gen.G has the pockets to keep them after they win Worlds in 2024, right? So that the whole squad could stay together once the salaries have to go up a bit, you know?
Who else has the pockets but like SK
Gen.G or
Telecom?
T1,
Like,
yeah.
I mean, so I think that's the thing. Like, I think they stay together unless one
nobody
team
else can
really
afford
wants to
them.
get the bag
Yeah.
for like one player and like rips Canyon out or takes Keen away or something. But
And why would they leave? Because Gen.G would probably pay them comparatively.
And-
So
Also, I
Just keep
imagine
winning.
you never know with players, right? But I think for Canyon and Keen, I would also imagine that they're at a point in their career where they're more about, I want the team that has
Yeah, I
the
want to actually
potential to
win.
Like, I want to get back to the top.
I also think that, like, and this is pure speculation, but I also imagine that Gen.G doesn't need to throw the whole bag because what they're offering is to increase the value of these players. Like Keen especially, right? Like, this guy has done the world tour of placements. He's never been able to actually come out on top, even though he's been at the top of so many of our power rankings for so long.
why would he ever want to leave Gen.G
Well, like-
at this point? You
Well,
know?
this is the thing, because his stock is only going up by being on Gen.G. That's
Yeah.
what the team offers. So being good only begets being better because you don't need to spend as much, because being with that team is valuable in unto itself. So I think that Gen.G benefits from that.
and players
a
will
lot.
be willing to sacrifice that to make sure they stay together as well, as we've
I mean,
seen
KT
on other rosters.
rumors of KT are that that whole team isn't on ludicrous salaries or anything like that. They just wanted to play together, and KT gave them a
bringing
house.
Back the gang one more time. 2022 DRX, baby.
And they're going to write down in their diary, "We beat Gen.G, nobody else could." And that's about all that
That's
they
still
managed
true.
to do so far.
As long as no one else beats Gen.G, that's going to be my favorite factor in League of Legends.
Yeah. If they
Only
win
Barrel
Worlds-
beats.
If they win Worlds, we're actually living in an anime. Like, this is all scripted.
this
like,
is-
this doesn't
this
make
is-
any
this
sense.
kind of already-
If KT
over the
beat
last-
Gen.G in the finals of Worlds this year. Like,
Over the last like
It's just
3 years. That's what's happened, though, right? Like, I mean, I'm including this year
Barrel
in
on
that
even years.
because it's like barrel, and then it's the T1 like almost 2 on the nose fairy tale.
Yeah.
Like, oh god,
So
man.
makes
if
too
you guys
much
want my,
sense.
I did the optimistic spin. Like I'll do the pessimistic spin.
Yeah,
The
give
problem
it
with
to
Gen
us.
G being this good, okay, and winning everything
Mm-hmm.
and getting better is that like it might actually just destroy League of Legends esports because there's just no reason to. Well, there's just no reason to even watch the LCK anymore. Like you just know
you
Gen
just
G is going
know.
to win in the end.
There are days when they don't play. Like,
true.
But why would you watch those days? I'm like, I would just take a break. I'm with Chovies tomorrow. Like,
I love that even
So
the
let's-
pessimistic take is rooted in relentless optimism that Gen G will not slump.
we need to investigate this, right? So I think what is important to note is the changes that have occurred or lack of changes that have occurred in the LCK in the off season between spring and summer. So I'm going to read out
There are like 4
and,
marks here on this
and
paper.
we can discuss. Okay, let's start
Started
somewhere.
from the bottom.
Let's talk about the
I didn't want to
teams.
say
Now we're
bottom.
here.
We're going to start with bro. Let's start with
Start from the bottom.
the bro.
the
bottom.
bottom.
The bottom. I don't want to say it the other way.
Sounds really
Let's not say it again. Let's not say it again. Let's talk about all the teams that want to fight for the right to lose to Gen G in the playoffs.
There we go. There we go. All right. So
just one of those
there is
years.
one change, a little bit of a change. Young Jay has joined.
He's loaned to
Yeah,
Bro.
sorry, loaned to Bro. So this is the new thing that you can do now
It's been
in the
browned
LCK,
over.
where like you can still be registered with a team, but then you can sort of loan out your players, and they can go and play somewhere else if they weren't necessarily getting any stage time on the team.
They
that
went to
they're
the OK Savings Bank and took out a Young Jay.
on. And unfortunately,
10th.
that really doesn't. I don't even think it improves the team. Does it improve the team? Gideon was
I think
probably the
it might.
best player
we don't
on there.
know. We don't know where Young Jay is because he didn't play at all. Like he
then
could
when
be
he
great.
did
You know,
play-
He was
when
pretty
he
good
did
on Kwangdong. Like he was okay.
He was.
What did Kwangdong
No.
change and then they got better? They changed their jungle, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they brought
They
in
did,
Cuz,
yeah.
which
Well, I mean,
that's-
cuz is cuz.
the issue is that Bro has always had problems with like getting everybody on the same page. So even when Gideon looked great, he would like go in and like make a great play, and we were like, "Oh my god, that's like the potential of Bro.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
see
yeah.
it right there," and then it's like snuffed out immediately like a candle flame
And you don't really
Budget
think of
on
Young
your
Jay
team.
as a
Sad.
leader, right?
the whole
You don't-
time.
Yeah.
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 So Young Jay's gonna come in, and it's just gonna be the same thing, except he's more passive than Gideon. So he might match better because he'll
Gideon would
match
do it
kind
on
of the
Lee
vibe.
Sin, and Young Jay comes in and does it on Sejuani. You know?
Sejuani,
It's
yeah.
like, "Whoa." Yeah. Okay.
Young
That
Jay
was
will have
my-
a
that
more
was my
stable.
Sejuani.
He'll have a more stable KDA
do
than
that.
Gideon, I would
Yeah.
say.
That's better.
He will die less, probably, but I don't think it's going to help the team at all.
No.
Like, I don't think it's going to change much.
Envy and Palu showed a lot of growth over the season. Like I think we can all agree on
Big
that.
Palu fan.
Karis did not.
He's tall.
Morgan
And
as well.
I'm sure Pool Bay
Kinda
will
struggled
play
in-
every
in
now
spring.
and then.
That's what I was getting
Pulbay.
at. Is I hope Pulbay actually plays and they try to grow him because, and I know I've talked about this a million times, but I'll do it one more time. So we're talking about Burrow. They're like Karis is he's still got potential. Like he's
Oh,
kind of become a
God.
meme. Like we found out he had potential like many years ago. And like people still say, well, he has
was
a lot of potential. I'm
2021.
like,
Imagine
I'm
if like Young Jay coming in is actually amazing, and then we can talk about the mid jungle duo of Pool Bay and Young Jay as Young Bay.
yes,
Young
That'd
Bay.
just be
I
the
like it.
best.
Because Pulbay,
I
we
also
know.
think Pool J sounds a bit weird, so we won't do that.
Pulbay has, we know Pulbay also has potential. Like we saw him
Yeah.
in Challengers, we know he's really good.
What if Young Jay learned from Cuz how to
that-
like pull a team out of the
Out of the gutter.
wreckage?
Cuz barely pulled the team out of the gutter, guys. Let's not forget they almost didn't make playoffs.
True.
Maybe
They went on
Young Jay
that
learned
bit of a
something,
streak. But Pulbay's potential, I want them to try to realize it. Like they're like, well, we got some cars. He's he's gonna bloom eventually. I'm like, no, Pulbay is like waiting. Like it's time. Please give him a chance. Like I look at this roster, I see Pulbay is not listed. Obviously, he's eligible to play, but I'm like, that's not a good sign for like, will Pulbay be playing a lot? I think if they planned for that, he would be on this paper, and I'm sad about that he's not.
All right. We're going to have to get through these because I think I did waste a lot of time talking about not what we were probably supposed to talk about in this episode.
That never happens in the
This is a
PogState.
great discussion, though. Anyway,
Yeah, I'm always happy
All about
just
the
to
tangents.
chat. D plus did not change anything. I think that probably disappointing for what they had in spring season. Let's hope that they've figured out some synergy and come back stronger. I think, there's a lot of places you can point the finger as far as where things
They're
have gone
aiming
wrong.
for a better performance in summer.
Yep.
Yep, there's emphasis on that.
kids making
It's
going on.
between them and if them or
I think
KT,
it's unfair to talk about D+ without Dan in the room.
Yeah.
I think Orcs needs to be here
He'll
for us
have
to
his
give an accurate
opportunities
representation.
for any
He'll have his
discussion.
chance.
I hope that we see more of what made that team fun in the tail end of Spring Split, which is play around Lucid, Showmaker, and King, unsurprisingly, who
Yeah.
actually really stepped it up later on, and use aiming the same way that KT did. Just follow that game plan. That might not be as successful, but let's not forget, last year, KT in spring wasn't that remarkable, and then they really stepped up in summer, were much better than we expected. I think DK is going to be looking to try and replicate that. I do think that if it's not them or KT that ends up getting the 4th seed, they'll be supremely disappointed as well. To actually see them step up to top 3, I think it could happen, but realistically, they'll probably get weirdly close to beating Gen G and then faceplant. as
DK
they do.
not changing their roster is kind of a big thing to note because there were a lot of rumors they were going to get Tarzan right at the end of the season.
Yeah.
A lot of people were talking about that. Obviously, that didn't happen.
If we've seen Tarzan play, it's probably. I don't think they
we know
feel too
the
bad about
reason.
that
Yeah.
one.
So
I think a lot of us were also like, is Tarzan going to play to carry? where is he going to
Yeah,
go? Are
so-
you replacing the second best player on the team?
No.
I really want to see Lucid be consistent because obviously his highs were very high, incredible, and we know that he is a player that has a lot of talent, and he displayed it on his best days in the LCK, but he had more of the not best days than his best days, so they can pull that out of him, and he's had a whole season of experience now. Hopefully Lucid can bring this team up, because I think we talked about aiming up and down, Kingen being a little bit more stable at the end of the season, but I think for me the big picture here is Lucid. If he plays well, Showmaker's having a good time. Showmaker's having a good time. D+ fans are having a good time. So
Yeah, I'm also. Ox isn't here, right? He's hiding in the corner.
He's not hiding.
I feel like the aiming stonks will go up actually for summer because he looked great in summer for KT, right? He was kind of the one player that was still playing at a high level when they kind of missed the boat at the last moment. I do think that he has oftentimes struggled with focus issues, and that's why sometimes he makes these really silly plays that are not, aiming should not be making these plays for a veteran of this level. But once it gets into summer and things are really ramping up and he's playing a lot and every game really matters and kind of the pressure is on, I feel like that's where he does shine a bit more. So I don't know if he's going to pop off and carry the team or anything like that, but I do feel like he will have a better performance than he showed in spring. So if you're a DK fan, that's kind of been one of the sore spots, I should say, for you in the bottom lane there. Aiming and Kellen haven't really looked great in spring, so hopefully they can look much better in summer. I'm expecting it.
Showmaker also should because I know we talked about Lucid a lot. I feel like Lucid's lows were way lower, but I think Showmaker also had a really strong start, but he did kind of taper off towards the end. I think
Felt
some
like
of
he
the,
was stretched a little bit thin trying to put out fires everywhere.
I mean, he
That's-
also was
that's-
kind of a karma one trick for half
Yeah,
the season
true.
as well.
that's fair. But I think even in the series against Gen G, right, where they were relatively close to winning, and then him on the Annie, I think trying to overforce. I don't want to put that entirely on him, but I do think that team, no matter what, will stand or fall by can he at least play at a acceptable enough level to match up to some of the greats that we have here in the mid lane. And if he does, I think this team will probably end up in a very similar spot. And as we've seen, their highs, I think most notably against Gen G, maybe they can create a really cool, crazy run. I could see them and KT both do it. Otherwise, it's probably 4th or 5th.
Yundo did point out also that Moham has joined the Challengers roster.
Who's
Yeah,
Wayne?
as well as Wayne.
Wayne? Wait,
Wayne?
Yeah.
wait, is that Batman?
We don't know.
I don't think
Also-
so. It said his name in Korean right next to it, actually.
Also, Bible has
Betaman?
has rejoined as a player coach,
Yeah.
So,
which is basically what he did on DK when he was playing
Yeah,
in
right.
Challengers, right?
Wait,
that's
who?
very
Bible.
cool.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know whether that helps. I don't know whether you're.
I think this is for
Mohamed.
challengers. I don't
Yeah.
think we'll end up seeing that.
But I also do think that like it'll help Kellen to have like some more people talking about his role and stuff like that, all that
Yeah.
sort of business, because we know that Kellen's needed a fair bit of help. He's
also-
like his growth stagnated quite a lot.
yeah, and it's also going to
After Worlds,
with how it's
it was
looking right
never
now.
the same.
I mean, yeah, it's also looking like now like it's going to be at least for the start of summer and engage support meta, and Kellen doesn't really shine there. So
No, not so much.
We'll see.
Let's talk about where
You know
D
who does
Plus
shine there?
should be trading their supports, and that is DRX, because Pleta is probably one of the best up-and-coming players that we have in the LCK. He's an absolute god. There are no changes for this DRX roster. Apparently, Teddy was a bit sick during the off-season, which is definitely a huge shame. Hopefully, he does get back to full health here moving into summer. But it does mean that they haven't necessarily been able to have the best practice in the off-season, although I don't know whether very many of us had a lot of expectations for DRX
believe it or not,
this time around.
10th.
Whoa,
No,
and bro, how
there's
do you
no
have two
way.
tenthers?
There's no way.
7-8, 7-8.
That was the joke.
No,
no. I think they're I think they're eight for 9th.
I think it's 7-8. I'm with a 7-8.
Yeah, above Fearx.
I already know how our week 1 PogState predictions are looking before we even get into the season.
Yeah.
I thought Setab had a really, really disappointing season, and Yahoo came in, and they seemed to be like kind of pushing him as maybe he's the main mid laner now, and his Hui was really good. Like, we saw a lot of great Yahoo Hui. I think that's, for me, like, the big exciting thing. I'm not like, ooh, is Frog going to play? No, that's not going to happen. But I think Yahoo might help this team get into a better place. I think this might be a little bit of a hot take. I thought Teddy was pretty good. Like,
Yeah.
I thought he actually played
Especially
pretty well.
towards the end of the season, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think you have strong support. You have Teddy. If they can shore up their laning, because their team fights and stuff were good, and Pleta's roaming was good, and his engages were good and stuff like that. But the laning phase was a little bit rough. But if they can get past that, and part of that's on Sponge because he didn't cover the lane a lot, and it was a very like Hail of Blades meta as it has been for a long time. So you fall behind there, you can struggle. But I think Teddy can be like a hard rock for this team. Just need to fix the other pieces.
Rascal needs the.
We need Rascal back.
We need.
We just
Rascal.
want him to
Otherwise, it is
do
actually
buttons good, please, Rascal.
or
It's
bring
the
up
summer of KT, right? So Rascal's on KT, right?
He was, yeah.
Right.
the buff. Just
Maybe, yeah, maybe he
Transfers.
can just.
It keeps transcending, and the problem is now everyone's
Bring it
played
on
on
over.
KT at least once in their career. It's like, so you've got Rascal, Keen, Doran, like all of them are just buffed. They're not even on KT anymore. Like,
Summer of KT.
not very fair. But we're going to have to move further forward. No changes, though, for DRX. We do have a slight change for FearX. They are now B&K Fox.
I think it's BNK Fear X.
Yeah, I know it's FearX, but I'm just going to say Fox is what written on my piece of paper, and they probably don't watch the PogState. Please.
They can't get him.
Can't get me. I'm
can't get him here.
B&K FearX, they've got a new sponsorship with a bank, Busan Bank.
I do love
That's
that.
pretty cool.
Given that they're trying to really play up the fact that they're
Yeah.
Busan-based org. I
Busan
think
team.
those type of sponsorships are always really cool.
That's really cool.
Just let us kill
Raptor
you,
is
Fox,
also called up from
please.
Challenger, which I don't really understand because everyone's permanently called up now, kind of, like with how the system kind of works. But Raptor is now going to be a bit of a...
He's
Bit
there.
of an
Also, yeah, I mean,
Willer
is
the
on
guy,
the team.
though.
So
Yeah, that was
he
what
was the one
confusing.
good player. Well, I can't put it that way, actually. I
No,
feel- I
you
feel
can
like-
actually. Yeah, you can.
I feel like
you can do
every
that.
player had
Hannah
their
was okay.
moments.
That was
like
it.
every player had their moments. Like
No,
Execute.
Claire had that really good Rumble game.
Yeah, he had that one
Yeah.
Rumble game, right?
And Execute had like 3 like
Insane
So
engage.
like as far as our
Yeah.
mad movies, I swear, if you watch
The 5-man
if you
knockout?
watch Spring via only mad movies, you'd be like, damn, that Execute guy is
He's
so
insane.
good.
Yeah.
But if you watched the LCK last season, you'd be like, wow, how did he get into the LCK? So it's
But then, like Closer had his games, you know.
Yeah.
The issue is that there was no consistency.
No
at
one was
all.
ever doing it at the same
only
time,
consistent
yeah.
thing was that they would all be on the same page to go absolutely int mode all together for no reason. Like I don't know why.
It was
Always.
intentional.
Everybody was on the same page to just do the wrong thing altogether.
Yeah.
But then
Which-
they had like their crazy high highs that were really
And
cool
Willer
to
would
watch
steal the objective
every
somehow
once in a
every time.
while. But unfortunately, that doesn't
I have
best of five,
very
so.
low expectations for this team. I do not think this team is going to playoffs. Like this team is like to me. I look at Noshim, I look at Bro. I'm like, there's some hope there. DRX, they're figuring it out. I look at Furix and I feel like, and I hate to say it, and I said it a lot in the spring, but I feel like this team can only get worse. Like Execute is crazy. They did not reel him in. They did not tame him. They did not tame the Mustang that is Execute. Like
I think
he butts the coach all like Ryu's like in the air. Like
No, I think he broke the gate on the paddock and everyone ran out. That's what happened. And now they're all just being Brumbies in the
wild horses.
Closers like on the forums asking for Nefiri buffs or something. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
He got them though, didn't he? That's pretty
They're
cool.
such a fun team to watch. If you're like a Furex fan, I understand.
Yeah, they're really,
They're not going to win all their games, but
They're
out there making
it'll be
a
fun.
friend.
It'll be fast.
Yeah.
You know, they won't win. It's not going to be
It's
positive.
not Dominion.
I was gonna say,
But they're like
Dominion, the team.
they're like KT for people who don't hate themselves quite that much because KT gets a lot closer, to greatness.
Furex
Fear
aren't gonna
X
do
are like, if they make playoffs, it'll be great. But I'm just here for the roller coaster.
yeah, they're the gateway to KT.
gateway drug.
Henna is like for me the one player that I'm like, oh, he got better during spring. Like he actually was pretty good.
Legitimately, yeah.
He played pretty well every game, even if his team lost.
I feel maybe it was humbling, like he gets replaced by Envy, and then he's like, "All right, I think I need to work on
step
myself.
up. I need to
to
lock
work
in."
on myself." And he absolutely did. He played really well.
I
That
think
is a good
Claire
kick in the butt.
went from being by far one of the worst Rumbles to being good at Rumble. So I think that part was cool.
now, if you can be good at everything else,
Yeah. Well, hey, one step at a time.
When we don't need to talk about Gen G. There are, the golden roads being paved, and we'll see.
They're
where
the
they
big
actually get there,
favorites
blah blah blah.
to not only win LCQ Summer but also Worlds.
I think Gen G are now favorites to win the future. which is
Trivializing League of
needlessly
Legends
just
esports.
I am always a little bit. I feel like if you talk too much about the Golden Road, like the teaser music from 2023 World starts playing and Faker just beams in.
Yeah.
And he just transcends, and you're like, well, I guess I'm not getting the Golden Road.
I mean, that sounds like good viewership, so I don't care. I'm down.
That's a semi-final.
Yeah, no worries. Humble Life Esports, though, another team, not a lot of changes. Obviously, right, because they got very, very close to making it to the final in spring. Do we think, with the fact that T1 didn't necessarily look like they'd gone, to another level moving to MSI and were maybe struggling a little bit, do you think it's now Humble Life Esports' time to bring us not the same final?
In regular split, I'm sure Humble Life will look
Good against
really,
T1.
really good against T1.
So here's the thing. It's an AP jungle meta a lot of the time. That means a lot of Yone and Tristana. Zeka can do that. Corky is not a thing, so that's good for Zeka.
Oh,
I mean,
that
he
is
is.
very
We
good
don't
for
feel
Zeka.
this.
They're not the
So-
same kind of thing.
Yeah,
the
fair
the
enough.
thing that he was that Zeka was not good at is not a thing. So he's
Yeah.
not
He's just an AP or AD lethality champion now,
Yeah.
so that should be right up to Zek as well. You're flying into people's faces, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so he doesn't have to worry about having to play Corky against good teams. And
Well, actually,
not
no,
doing
he
the
can
best
play
job.
Corky. You just play it the way that he used to.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah,
great.
because that's
good
so it's
now.
good. So it's good. Like
Yeah.
old
yeah.
Corky,
Not
that
old
was a
Corky.
problem. Is gone now. It's
Yeah,
not,
perfect,
we don't,
perfect.
it's not going to haunt my nightmares anymore. So
Well, they're
This could be
already
good for
nightmares
Zeka.
and they're being haunted by Corky.
Yes.
He was already
Dorn-
having a bad dream. Like, he was already naked in the high school hallway, and then Corky's, like, round the corner.
and then Zeka, like I'm like naked and embarrassed, and then Zeka just like comes in on a Corky ship and he crashes into the wall, and it's like so embarrassing for me because I'm an LCK commentator. I'm like so sad. Like, oh God. This is way more embarrassing.
Why did you have to do this while I was naked?
Wow.
Zeka is what needs to improve on this team, I feel, and it's a good meta for him. I think it will be at least. So that's
Dorn
a
is
good
kind of
sign.
neutralized, right?
Yeah.
He has to play tanks every game.
He can play Skarner, it's fine.
Yeah.
Peanut
that
can play
actually
Skarner
sounds
too.
great.
Cassante, Skarner, Cassante.
And then they still have the best bottom lane in the league, so
Yeah.
we're pretty psyched about
Engage
Viper
meta
and
for
Delight
Delight,
existing.
The only question really is, are they going to get second place in regular season before then losing to T1 in the lower finals?
Yeah.
That's really the only question for me, because regardless of how strong they are, they're going to lose to T1 in the lower finals, and we're going to have Gen G T1 for the finals.
Yeah.
It's just the way it's written. Like I can't change history.
no,
like
'cause-
the Rosetta Stone had it there. Like Genji versus T1. I can't change it.
remember-
It was the Mayans, man.
We don't
It was
have
the
the power,
Mayans.
right?
I remember last play. I was so flabbergasted because we all agreed on this coming into playoffs, and then you guys were like, "No, actually, Humble Life is gonna do it," and I'm like, "No, we agreed. We all know
This time for real. Like I'm on the same page with you now.
Yeah, Hanwha will be the team that we think maybe will change the narrative, but then will fail again. Probably.
they're not the chosen one."
But they will play some damn good League of Legends all regular season.
Yeah.
And it'll be pretty hype.
Yeah, and then we'll all be like super psyched to see that in the playoffs, and then we won't. And then
I'm
it'll be
also-
sad. But
they're-
they'll still
they're-
go to Worlds, so it's
They're a seed that also I would love at Worlds. I feel like Hanwha is a team
Oh,
you can
hell yeah.
trust
They'll make
to
it.
have a really solid performance right up until like quarterfinals.
Just like in 2021.
Same expectations.
hell yeah, but no Peanut. And I always worry about Peanut going overseas, so we'll see how that one's going to be.
Doran.
And of course, I don't know. Maybe London will be different. Who knows? But let's move
I
forward.
don't know if they'll get so long.
Kwangdong Freaks.
Leaper.
Yeah. So we have a little bit of a shuffle here.
Leapers?
Any leapers in chat?
I almost pronounced it wrong when I first read it, and I was like, "That's could be a bit wrong." It's not exactly a disease that's very common these days.
He might have tried to do Reaper because the
Yeah.
character
but
is the same in
yeah,
Korean.
that might have been it. But this way, you know,
I prefer
he can,
to think of him as just a zany individual. It's like, Reaper's too edgy. I want to be Leaper.
Kenzie posted that thing on Twitter, right? He asked Leaper, why do you name yourself Leaper? And he's like, I wanna leap over all the other 80 carries. So I guess it's
That's
probably
cute.
he wanted to be Leaper.
Maybe he's a Mario
I
fan.
read that
Maybe
tweet
he's
and
a
I didn't
Hearthstone fan.
understand
Like
it.
he loves that old Battlegrounds meta, Leapers.
Oh,
Right?
Honestly,
so the frogs?
Respect. That was my favorite.
So let me
too.
get
It's
this
my,
straight.
Still my favorite comp.
Let me get this straight, CV Max. So we had Taeyun. We kept Taeyun for a really long time, like way too long. Yeah, then we put Bull in, and he was like the chosen. We were like, wow, this guy's really good. They drafted around. Then they stopped doing that, and then you lost 8 games in a row. Then they like played at the very end in like one or two games to make playoffs. Playing Bull like the way they figured it out. And so now he's like, well, we need a new 80 carry. So they get Leaper onto the roster. He's the new guy. It's the new CV Max project. I'm sure it's going to go very well for like the first 2 games. Everyone's going to raise their expectations for Kwangdong Freaks. And then suddenly I'm going to show up and the roster paper is going to be on my desk. And it's going to say that Taeyun is starting. And I'm just going to be like, I don't know, CV Max. Like, what is the plan? Like, why do I see this new player on the paper?
So
Like,
I
what are
don't
we
see the
doing?
group photo. Do you see the group photo that LCK released with like everyone in Lol Park after media day? CV Max had a look in his eye in that photo, man, and I was so worried. I was like, Leaper cannot be the end of this story. He's not the end of this story.
I want to say, though, I do think that in that game that got into playoffs, Quantum played really well.
Yes.
Quantum, at least last time I checked, was like rank 1 in solo queue with like 1600 LP. And I've been watching a lot of Korean solo. He's been playing like legitimately really well. Also, Ande was obviously dealing with the health stuff. So my expectation is that Quantum is going to play. And maybe, the combination of Quantum and Leaper, we already know the top half of the map. If they get their shit together, they're good. They're really, really, Cuz is always good.
It might be a
Bulldog-
story of like Quantum has like he's earned the right to choose by having a performance in the offseason
I just
like that,
want
right?
off of CV Max because you talk about 80 carry. I want off of CV Max's wild support ride, man. We've had like 15.
Yeah.
We've had June. We've had Andil. I've lost track.
Moham.
Moham.
So, I mean, it's a pretty cool combo though. Like Quantum Leaper.
Oh,
It's a pretty good.
my
It's a pretty good
God.
bot duo. Like it's pretty legit. So that could be a thing. But yeah,
That's
so
the
sick.
the
actually.
play-by-play is like, oh,
Holy. I've also been watching like a lot of science YouTube videos while I grind Diablo. Like I've learned a lot about the
Yeah.
fact that universes can exist in parallel inside black holes.
when getting ready for this episode, I already
we
had
just lack the dark matter. Never mind.
getting ready for this episode before I knew about Leaper because I found out about it yesterday. I was kind of thinking, all right, what am I going to say about Quantum Freaks? I was like, okay, maybe they've like really done the hunker down during the offseason, scrim a lot, practice a lot, come in strong at the beginning of the season, work on their issues, focus on like, okay, same roster this time, no changes. And then I see Leaper, and I'm like, nope, they didn't do it. I don't know. It's doomed.
That's
about
not a
a
huge
7th or 8th
fan of
place for me.
Bull. I think that Bull didn't have very high of a ceiling.
Really?
Yeah,
Really, Atlas?
this might come as a shock to many people, but I wasn't necessarily on the same train. So if Leaper shows more potential, I think that long term that is a better decision.
Could be, yeah.
That's sort of my, and I don't like offering a grain of salt to CVMAX because he's got a track record of not necessarily deserving it. But if I was to, that would be probably my angle.
They kind of need Dudu to step up as well.
Yeah,
I guess
I agree.
Yeah,
I think
because we spent a lot of time
Dudu
saying he
beginning,
was the guy, and then he
and then
wasn't.
now
really
he
the
just
guy.
Dudu hasn't
wasn't.
Yeah,
recovered.
that's true.
He just wasn't in spring, so they need him back.
I almost felt
especially if they're
offended
going to
that
be
you said it,
shuffling,
but, yeah.
if they're going to be shuffling a bunch of like young players around, like they need some stable guys that aren't only Cuz, like Cuz he's got too much weight on his shoulders. I think in that aspect.
It's a really good take because I think you can still see the same thing that happened with Chovy, where he's just like desperately trying, and he's gone so far down the rabbit hole that
He's
he
going
just
the
ends up
rascal
into it.
direction,
Yeah, that's
which
exactly
is not,
what I was gonna
which
say,
is
yeah.
not a good direction to
It's
go.
not nearly as bad, but I do agree. Yeah, especially given the level of play we know Dudu is capable of.
Absolutely. Let's move very quickly. KT is next. They haven't
First.
made any changes. We do need to note that there were very awkward videos of them at the baseball doing dances, which was...
everyone else was struggling at MSI.
Yeah, it was extremely uncomfortable to watch that. I think it was like while we were preparing for G2 versus T1, I think I was watching it in Dracos' room, and I like turn on Twitter and it's like Deft being thrown around by like some mascot of a baseball team. I'm like, am I dreaming? What happened here?
Kyoshi was having
very
a great
weird.
Why am
time.
I in Dracos' room?
Because we were watching MSI together. I think we had a few people there. That was the way. That was the meta. You like because you don't all go to the venue. You all watch it together. In
It's way more
someone's
comfortable
room.
that way.
Yep.
Where does KT rank? You're the expert. They're the only team to have beaten Gen G.
I'm not going to make the same mistake again. You hear it here
10th?
right now. 5th.
Perfect equilibrium.
Exactly, because they can be first or last, and so 5th is the right call.
They could be
it's
6th
not,
too, right?
My logic in spring was
No,
they
not
can
this
be
time.
first or 10th, so first.
Look at the other teams, Valdez.
I'm an idiot. That's not how a bell
Which of
curve
the other
works.
teams can beat them? Like, I think they are 5th. It seems very logical.
It seems pretty 50, but they could, obviously they could be anywhere.
If BDD gets it together, I can see them end up over D+.
Yeah.
I think the team just isn't cohesive enough to consistently rank above any of the top 3.
I do think that D+ probably have a bit more... Oh, it's hard to say, but it feels to me like they have a bit more upward room to grow.
It looks great in playoffs.
Yeah.
I think Carry
Against
Jungler
Shinji.
should also be better for DK, but we'll see.
The more comfortable Lucid gets, the more I could see him just doing the D+ in Challenger thing where he just takes over games over and over again. Because he was extremely good.
Perfect is still everyone's front runner for an award he can't win.
Yeah.
So that's a bummer.
Sad.
Who can win Rookie of the Split again?
Most other plays that you'd expect, so like
Leaper.
Lucid, Bull,
Palu?
Leaper.
Sponge
I
can't,
don't
right?
think-
Because he played a game or two.
I also think Clear can't, because I remember
No.
Yeah,
him.
No,
Clear
you
played
can't.
last year as well.
Can Palu win?
Palu should be, yeah.
I think
so.
he's-
Did he play emergency sub though once? During
Yeah, I
COVID?
think so.
He might have.
Poolbay can't.
COVID actually kind of
Poolbay
ruined
can.
it for so
I don't
many of these
remember.
players. Yeah, Poolbay definitely
Poolbay still can. Fisher and Mahal and Co can, which is a bit of a spoiler, but they can become the rookie of the split.
Calix could be a
Calix
good call
could
from Indo.
definitely be it. That's a
Well,
really,
so far
really good
he's
point.
not, but he could. He
Yeah,
could
yeah.
Be it.
But we know that Calix is definitely like I don't know what Nongshim did with because they cycled through so many mid laners that looked good, and even though
we address
ultimately were
Nongshim?
we have to.
that's where we're going now. So KT,
Address
that's
the Nongshim
no
in the
change.
room.
That'll be 5th, whatever.
Yeah,
Nongshim. Yeah, Fiesta's gone. You guys just take me through what happened here.
So
I feel like Donald Glover,
my issue is that Nongshim was a vibes team, and they weren't a very good vibes team, right? It's just a
it was
reality.
good vibes.
It was really good vibes, not a very good team.
Yeah.
But you knew what you signed up for. And I think that with that roster, you were accepting we're going to have some great games, but most likely even a playoff spot is probably a little bit too much to ask for. Just with the average level of play that our players have, even with the synergies and whatnot. And now they're diluting the vibes. I'm not.
But that's all they had.
So, well, that's my point. So Fiesta's gone, which I think that's fine because you want to play Call Me / Calyx, right? I think that makes sense. But then they added Fisher, who, when he was still in Challengers / Academy, had a lot of hype behind them, but he was on EDG, which was kind of a disaster.
Yeah.
So no idea what to expect from him. Then they also have Vital, who role swapped from AD carry to support, which honestly probably a pretty good decision, but is he going to be good? And then there's Guger,
who's 30 years old. I'm just putting it out
Now,
there.
how old
Yeah.
are you?
He played in like
I am
2012.
30
am
years
30.
He turned 30 about a month ago. Yeah.
So you're the same age as Cougar, who is on a professional team in the
Who-
LCK.
well, we don't know.
Why aren't you on the team?
So we don't know that because I genuinely hope that Guger is like a player coach that's mainly just kind of there. 'Cause
Like the
Peter is-
Bible effect?
Peter is still, yeah. But I want Vital, honestly, to play. I feel like Vital, out of the three, is probably the best, like, most well-rounded player.
Vital Jiwoo sounds like a dope bottom lane. We were talking about this just before the show, but like, I'm excited for that. That
What
sounds
about
cool.
Odd Eye?
Okay, Adi being there is actually...
No, Odd Eye, the 80 carry player.
What? Oh, Odd Eye. Oh, God.
Odd
Yeah,
Eye.
Wait,
I got no
what?
opinion.
Wait,
on-
who's Karim?
Karim, he's the
Karim,
Challenger.
the
This is
jungle
also
player
the,
in
this is also the
Challengers.
Challengers roster
okay.
that we're looking at.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
okay,
this
okay.
is-
So,
okay,
Knowing
thank
Nongshim,
God.
I'm like, we'll see Odd Eye.
Well,
He'll make an
we'll
appearance.
see Odd. No. There's no way.
Odd
There's
Eye.
one person you never sub out, and it's Jiwoo. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
because we
There's
agree,
no
it's definitely
reason.
going to. He's
It's-
definitely
They
going
almost
There's-
beat
there's-
T1 that one time.
There's
so.
actually no way. You don't sub out Jiwoo. That's the one guy. But I do think that we'll see Mahao, because I think Mahao, it's a
I want to
Cassante and
see Odd
Skarner.
Eye. I just want to see him.
No, I want to see Addy. I do not want to see Odd Eye. We'll
I
see
see
Odd
him.
Eye in
No, I don't want to see him
Challengers.
play. I just want to see him.
How he
I
looks.
think
Yeah,
we'll
I
see,
just
I
want to
think we
know
will see
why.
Addy.
You know,
Just make sure he exists.
So
Addy is like everybody knows who Addy is, right? Like crazy solo queue player,
inventor of Janna Top.
Top
Yeah,
guy,
yep.
messed up Chovy's wave state because they disagree on how the wave should be managed. A huge drama. Everyone's seen it. He thinks about the game very differently, and this is for me the biggest pickup of the whole offseason is him actually getting signed to a pro team because now we're going to find out if he can like impart his crazy theories to a pro team. And if they like him,
LCK
maybe he
needs
plays an
more
LCK.
crazy.
Yeah.
Also mechanically, he's it's like a challenger, like high challenger version of the Baus, right? Like who at seasons also reaches that, but I think right now is mostly around like Grandmaster. But specifically, I've watched games of him where he plays like Viego, and he ints the first 15 minutes of the game, and then he has 2 back-to-back team fights that just make you go, this guy's
Unreal.
actually not. This is unreal.
At
like,
the end of the day, though, he's on a Korean pro team, so
He'll
they're going
play-
to try one of his picks one time, and it's going to nosedive into the ground and
then he's gonna
burst
play
into
Cassante.
flames, and then they're never going to try
does it
that ever
really
again.
like? Does the champion
And-
matter though? For like when it's like just his inherent play style
He's
of,
also done-
of just int and then
Some
win a team
champs-
fight.
I remember
randomly.
Molecule showing
better to do that kind of thing.
He went Mundo and he bought like 30 potions over the course of like he just kept buying.
just needs him running.
he just
dude.
kept buying 5 pots.
He's living in the past, man. We don't do
I
that
imagine
anymore on
Molecule
the
was
top lane.
really excited
Yeah,
about
no, he
that.
was like, "What is this? What am I looking at?" I don't think he kept. I think he did it a couple of games in a row. That's
my
the
God.
type of player he is.
Isn't it sad though that he'd have to take a spot over Dindin? Because that is exactly what that is. It's
Vibes
the vibe.
dilution.
It's the vibe trade.
Yeah.
It's the vibe trade for crazy. But like Nongshim,
Yeah.
like they
It's like
probably need some of that.
The soup is too hot, so you put an ice cube in it, and it seems like the right idea. Like the Nongshim noodles are too hot, but then the ice melts, and then you're like, ooh, it's not hot anymore, but it doesn't taste good anymore either.
Yeah, it's diluted.
Yeah.
It's not it.
It might end up working. I don't think it'll matter that much for the placement of the team, but I really have grown to I think we all have grown to love the teams and their antics, even though they're not very good. And hopefully the new players will slot right in.
And even if like Addy doesn't necessarily play, I hope that his influence is felt within the
Yeah,
team.
that's
right?
what I'm excited about.
I think
hopefully.
that's really cool because like I think that's the perfect team to just throw craziness into.
One other thing is like this team is giving paychecks out basically. I mean, there's a huge roster now, right? So all these young players actually now have income and have the opportunity to play and compete. And in a time where a lot of teams are cutting, the fat, and taking a lot of players away and minimizing their rosters. Like Nongshim is investing in, potentially these players that could be good next year or, at the end of summer or like in 2 years' time. So investing in the future and investing in these players and giving them, even if it's just minimum salary that they're getting, like that's good to see. That's exciting that the org is actually trying to. I'm not saying they're getting expensive players, but getting a lot of players and giving them a huge opportunity to make their mark in League of Legends. So I like that and I respect that.
They're also probably one of the best orgs when it comes to utilizing challengers, which obviously we're really
and promotion.
appreciative of.
Like they've got so many extra deals and things like that for like stuff that you can get for fandoms
Twitter
and
as well.
the global Twitter
So
is
fun.
brilliant. But it just feels good to be a Nongshim fan.
Yeah.
I think that like they're going about it really, really well. I think that in the future this is definitely an org to that will be moving up, even if their results don't. Right?
They've kind of taken the vibes that Bro had, and Bro still has vibes in Twitch chat and stuff, but kind of those vibes. Over to, one of the teams that's on the lower end, but you still feel good to watch and you're having a good time.
It's the spirit of JNR. There always has to be one.
Yeah,
I feel like Nongshim has taken that over.
So we've got one more team to talk about. We've saved them till last.
Oh, almost forgot about them.
Yeah, this is... I'm not sure how to think about good old T1 coming into the summer split, because... Obviously, third place in MSI, fantastic. We've heard that obviously things weren't necessarily the most kosher during the event itself, and Faker wasn't feeling fantastic. Had his arm injury coming back again.
What do you mean by things weren't kosher? Like I don't know.
I just
that
heard
reference.
that it was not necessarily all wine and roses within the team.
Internal issues. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, like internally.
Which
during the event
makes sense, I think. I think T1 really suffered from the lane swap meta.
Yeah.
I think Faker might have had his worst international tournament ever.
Didn't Guma go on record saying, "Yeah, we just don't know how to do it, lol"?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, which is
He
fair.
was like,
because,
we might lose to a Western team
because
basically.
this team has spent like the last 2.5 years playing off of Zeus being a maniac and Guma and Kara being maniacs in the 2v2.
Mm-hmm.
So like them not dealing with lane swaps, I think makes complete sense.
Yeah, it's not wholly unexpected what happened.
No, and they were one game away from making the finals again. Like
But when it comes to summer season, I think with some of the changes we've already seen from Riot moving into the season, and I think the future of Riot saying we don't really want lane swaps to be a thing, I think that only does favor T1 at the end of the day. Like their style, like we were talking about, especially the bottom laners, the two duos, they can kind of go back to just being insane, dominating people, winning lanes so hard that they just win so many games, and then
actually want the team to do the same thing, even though it was obviously really contentious last summer, and just give, if it actually is the injury being the main reason, as to which to me is the only thing that makes sense, because it's not like the meta changed a lot from spring to MSI. Oh, it did, but not for mid. And like Faker's individual split this
he was
spring
still good.
was one of the best that he's had in years, right? So like that to me is the only thing that makes sense. I also think there's obviously still the DDoS issue, which is also kind of a nightmare. So just have this team be like fourth instead of second in the regulars. It doesn't matter.
Oh, when I was coming into this whole conversation about T1, I was like, they're not first.
Yeah.
That's all.
I mean,
first.
Yeah.
They could
Like,
be
they'll
fourth
be
or fifth.
second.
It wouldn't
the question
change.
is, are they second?
Yeah,
or are
probably.
they?
I
Yeah,
think they might be.
probably
I think they might be third. I think they might or fourth. I think they
Hanwha
might end up
get
below
second,
Hanwha.
and
The problem
just depends on what happens with Faker and
the problem is like what happens to the meta, and is Owner going to be good at AP jungle champs, which might not even be the meta for very long, but it seems like at least we're going to be kind of starting that way. We know his Nidalee is fantastic, obviously, but there are more champions who have to play, like Karthus, for example, which we don't have a lot of data on. But Faker's injury, if he's come out and talked about it a little bit, if that creeps back up again, then T1 might need to invest in not someone somewhere between, like right now we have like Poby and we have Faker. We may be something a little bit closer to Faker to replace him, because
maybe.
ultimately the schedule, the League of Legends schedule for LCK is insanely grueling. Like there are no breaks. The MSI break is very short for Faker, and like it's back to playing 2 games a week.
The 1 week break that we do have for
they don't get
Esports
one.
World Cup, they will not get because they will be participating.
And that is probably going to do it. Any final thoughts, gentlemen, on anything else you'd like to say before we get to our ludicrous predictions, which are going to be coming up in the next episode? That'll be after week 1, where we're just going to say things that are probably eventually not going to be true.
I mean, all I want to say is like before this episode and leading up to the season, I was kind of feeling a little bit of like, okay, I'm excited to cast. Like I always get this feeling of like, oh, it's season is starting soon, but it wasn't as hype as like usual for me because I think just Genji winning everything kind of took some of the wind out of my sails in terms of getting hyped for the season. But this episode got me pretty hyped. I'm like, oh yeah, the LCK is starting soon.
Hell
Like,
yeah, dude.
That's all I have to say.
Anything, Valdez?
No.
We've taken
we've
taken
said
him away
enough.
from
We've
his
said a
secret
lot.
game for too long.
Yeah. Need to get back to my secret game.
Chronicler?
No, I really hope that Faker doesn't retire. And
Yes.
I don't think he will. So if
Good.
anyone was worried about that,
I
Man,
can't wait.
it
and
should be fun.
I'm really looking forward. I think one of the cool things with esports is that it's not about, the destination. It's about the journey. And I can't wait to see which journey we take this split to T1 Genji. It's always such an insane pleasure. The twists and turns, the rise and fall of all the other teams.
The ebb and flow.
And then in the end, will be
And
in I don't know
I
if
think
this,
Chester
I don't know if
Bennington
the
said it
location,
the best,
is the
didn't
location
he?
already announced for summer.
I don't know
finals?
about that. They can always edit it out if-
Beep it out if it's not true. But in Gyeongju, super cool location, and it's going to be T1 Genji, and it's going to be great. I can't wait.
And it's always about the journey, except the one time that Genji won MSI.
And
it
it's
was
about
about
who
the-
you can go on that journey with. And we do
location.
have a special surprise that is going to be coming up very, very soon after this episode is released about a certain new face that you're going to be experiencing.
Oh, yeah.
New
here in the
face, but
LCK.
also not an entirely new face for the league,
That's true.
for the whole league.
But we're very excited to be inviting a new person to the LCK family, and we're hoping that he doesn't screw it up because that'd suck.
No pressure.
About
Yeah.
40% chance. So
Yeah. We don't have very high hopes, so I guess doesn't really need to worry about it too much. But that'll do it for this episode. We're incredibly excited for summer, and we'll see you for the next one for our ludicrous predictions. Bye-bye!
Bye.